I can show this. Oh, hang on. Let me just get out of that. I'll just get rid of that banner because I'm not sure if it's showing for you still. There we go. All right, let's get going. Okay, so about this session. So welcome, a formal welcome everyone from me. My name's Katie Wardrobe. I recognise lots of names in the chat window, so it's great to have you back if you've been to previous webinars, or if you are a member of my Midnight Music community, welcome to those people as well. And or if you've just recently done the Canva course that I run, which was so much fun, and we had some great connections there in a pop-up Facebook group while that was happening. Some of us are missing that, but you know, I will be doing that again in January. So I'd love to welcome everyone, whether you're new to me or not. And I am based in Melbourne. I have a website called Midnight Music, and I basically do training for music teachers, which is all focused on technology related things. So I have a podcast and I have a blog, and I do, when it's not coronavirus kind of time, I go and present at workshops and conferences and all sorts of things. I am really missing that at the moment, I have to say. So at the moment, we're all online, but that's okay. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have tech issues, i.e. it gets glitchy or something drops out, just restart your browser, come back into the chat window and the webinar page. It is usually your internet at your end. So just do that as a first try. Maybe try a different device, switch to your mobile data if you need to, something like that. The whole session is being recorded, so if you do miss something, if you have to go off and attend to kids or dogs like I often do, the session is being recorded and you'll get access to that as well after it's finished. I'm also going to provide you with a copy of the slides that I'm showing. So this is useful. It kind of saves you taking copious notes about everything, but they will also become available at the end, and I'll tell you how you can get hold of those later on. Now, I have the lovely Amy Burns helping me out today, who's moderating the chat. I've had Amy and Martin Emo from New Zealand kind of taking turns on these webinars. At one point, well, I used to just do it all myself and not really have someone on to help me. But at some point, they all just got too big, and it's just much better for me if I can concentrate on presenting, not thinking about anything else. And Amy or Martin, if he's here, usually just take care of everything in the chat window. So if you have questions, Amy will attempt to answer them on the way, and she knows a lot more about some of the things I'm showing today, I'm sure, than I do. But I will also say, if it's to do with links, please go and visit the Wakelet board for links to things that I'm saying, so that Amy doesn't need to keep posting in links to individual things, because that's just going to be really time consuming. I'm guessing that the chat window is probably almost at capacity now. So with 500 people in potentially making comments, it gets very busy in there. We will have a longer Q&A at the end. I tend to just kind of hang around until the questions stop for that part of the session. So save things up for then if you want to, or ask them as you go, and Amy will attempt to answer them, or we'll flag them for answering at the end. Okay, so let's get started. I really wanted to do a session about engagement and motivation for students, because one of the main themes that I could see coming up since March is that things were going okay, people were coping, but the student engagement or motivation was at a lower level. So I feel like at the moment we're in this kind of second wave of this whole situation of teaching. And I saw back in March mass panic, and you all saw this too or experienced it yourself. And really it was about survival mode. It was just about getting through that time. And I think everyone did such a great job of doing that and getting through. Lots of people had massive crash courses in all sorts of things, like using Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, and utilizing your LMS, and you got sort of that basic video conferencing part down, hopefully. Maybe you learned how to do screencasting for the first time so that you could make tutorial videos. So I feel like we've kind of got those basics in place. Maybe a bit more work needs to happen on some of them, but they're there. And I feel like we're at this second wave kind of time now where we want to just make things a little bit better, maybe improve the delivery of the content, maybe increase engagement, hopefully. And the other part of this piece in the puzzle is that it's really good to have options for all situations. Something that can work, or multiple things that can work, no matter what type of teaching you're doing, whether it's remote or face to face, a combination of the both, or whether you're working from a cart or any of the above. And to be honest, whatever you're doing right now may change in a few weeks. So, here in Melbourne, where I live, we were kind of getting back to normal. The schools had just started to reopen at the end of a school term. And now we're back down in lockdown. So we're all back to remote learning. Everyone can only go a 5 kilometre radius from home. So things can change really quickly. So it's good to just not be totally don't think that what you're doing right now is a guaranteed situation, is I suppose what I'm trying to say there. So really good to keep an open mind and be flexible, and maybe set things up in a way that it doesn't matter, that allow you to shift back and forth between these types of situations. So the things I want to talk about today are these ones here. I had some more on my list, and to be honest, I think we'll be lucky to get through all of these ones because each one of them has kind of a lot involved. So I will do my best to cover off the basics of each of these. This is not going to be an in-depth tutorial how to step by step for every single one of these. I've given you some resources on that Wakelet board where you'll be able to find tutorials that you can watch, which give you more information about setting up accounts and getting going and all those sorts of things. So I really want to talk about an overview of what these tools are, how you can apply them to the music classroom situation. And that's the thing that I find hard to find online. Like when I'm looking at, well, how do you use these tools? Sometimes it's really good to see examples for the music classroom, and that can be difficult to find. So hopefully I'm going to show you some of those today. Now, I'm also going to say that I have a feeling that showing you some of these tools is going to raise more questions about all of them than is possible to cover in this session. So if you can think of this as a bit of a taster and introduction session, I will actually be doing, for people who are members of my Midnight Music community, I am actually going to do some more in-depth training about every single one of these. But I will also say, for those of you that are coming to the free webinars, the last one, the digital badging, I am going to make that the subject of next month's webinar. So I'll touch on it today, and I'm going to go into much more detail in next month's webinar because it's very cool. And I can see lots of people starting to talk about it at the moment. So I'm excited about that. All right, let's get on to the first thing, which is interactive presentations. And I want to talk here about Pear Deck and Nearpod. Now, these are two different tools, two different companies, and they do slightly different things, but they are kind of similar at the same time. So both of these allow you to add interactive elements to slideshows. So that can be a Google Slides presentation or a PowerPoint presentation. And what they do is that they add these interactive elements like quizzes or polls or questions that students can answer. And it really does allow you to hear from all of your students, and it changes your presentation, your delivery of content, from being just a passive consumption of content from the student's point of view to getting them actually involved. So this works really well if you're in person with students, standing at the front of the classroom and delivering your content that way. It also works really well if you're on a Zoom or Google Meet call and you're delivering content that way. And they both allow you the option of setting your slideshow as an asynchronous activity option. So you can set up a lesson and actually allow students to do it at their own time. So this works really well for the hybrid situation and for those with the remote learning situation where not every student can be online at a specific time of day. So let's talk about each of these separately. Now, look, I'm going to be really honest with you here. I knew about both of these tools and I've known about them for quite some time, but it was not until, and I'm going to reveal something here. This is not until the last week or so. This is how close sometimes I leave my preparation for these webinars. It wasn't until around the last week or so that I really got stuck into these in a bigger way to kind of work out how they work and to come up with some music examples. Now, the thing I'm going to be really honest with you about is it took me quite some time to get my head around them. Now, I'm going to just tell you that because if you don't have the headspace and the time, if you're already in panic mode about how things are going to work for you at school, it might not be the time for you to look at these. I don't want to tell you that any of these tools that I'm showing today are must-haves. They're things to consider or to come back to when you have time. So with both of these, I really had to play with them quite a bit to kind of get them, if you know what I mean. I'm hoping that those of you that have tried either or both of these, maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you don't, but I really did find that. And I would consider myself a fairly tech-savvy person. So I just found that I really had to experience them to have a good understanding of what they were and how they worked. So Pear Deck, first of all, I'm mentioning first because it's a little bit easier to get your head around. It's a Google Slides or PowerPoint. They've added this in more recently for PowerPoint, a Google Slides or PowerPoint add-on. So when you're preparing a Google Slides or PowerPoint slideshow, you can add interactive components to slides that you're showing your students. So this means that you can have a slide which has a question on it, and rather than the students typing, for instance, if you were in a remote situation, rather than them typing an answer into your chat window, maybe some of you have been doing that in the past, they can actually answer the question on their own device and you as a teacher can see the responses. So this is why it's quite useful, and there are multiple ways that they can provide an answer to you. I'm going to talk about those in a moment. So you can have live instant responses as you're presenting your lesson. And this is why it's very good for engagement, because you can actually see whether students are engaging with your content, with your teaching or not. Now, you don't have to have an email login for this. I know this is a barrier for some of you. If you're working with young students particularly, you don't have to have an email login. However, if you do use your email logins, which are associated with your Google or Microsoft account, you're going to get better reporting, better reports on the assessment side of things. So that's just something to bear in mind. So with Pear Deck, there are a number of things which are not included in the free version. You can use Pear Deck for free, totally for free, except there are a few things that you do not have access to with the free version. Now, when you first sign up, you'll actually get a 90-day trial of the premium version. So right now, I have 80 something days left of my free 90-day trial, and I have access to everything. So it's well worth making use of that while you have it to see if this is something that you want to keep going with and maybe pay for in the end. So the premium features are the option of adding questions into your slide deck, which allow students to draw their answer or to drag something into place to show their answer. Now, the drawing one particularly is very useful for music because, of course, drawing can involve drawing notes or clefs or rhythms or anything like that. So it's a bit sad that it's not in the free one, but it's just good to bear in mind. Now, the other thing that's part of the premium features is the ability to add audio in. So audio can be from you as a teacher. It could be just you reading the instructions for the activity, or I'm thinking of music teachers, it could be you singing something or tapping a rhythm that you want students to transcribe. And there are multiple other uses for music, obviously, as well. Now, that is only anyway a premium feature for slides. That a feature is not available as yet in the PowerPoint version of Pear Deck. Now, the other thing is that you can have access to a student paced option. So this is for asynchronous learning, but that is, again, it's a premium feature. So if you're on the free version, you will not have access to that after your trial ends. So let's talk a little bit about how to use Pear Deck. Now, this is their website on the right-hand side. So I'm going to let you in on a secret here. I started using Pear Deck by opening up Google Slides and installing the add-on from the add-ons store. That's a perfectly fine way to get started with Pear Deck, but I didn't realize that there's actually some other things that you can do and access on the Pear Deck website. So my suggestion is go to the Pear Deck website first, sign up there, set up your account there, That kind of gives you access a little bit to like a teacher sort of area. Do that first, then open up Slides or PowerPoint and install your add-on and get started. So you can either open up an existing slideshow that you've already created, and this is one of the benefits of Pear Deck. You can use something you've been using already for months and add some interactivity to it, so you don't have to start from scratch. Or you can open up a slideshow that you've already got created with Pear Deck interactivity. And the thing that you need to know about using Pear Deck is that when you launch a Pear Deck lesson, you need to launch it using their Start Lesson button. And I'm going to show you that on the next screen. So here's me in Google Slides, and you can see on the right-hand side, this is Pear Deck. So once you've installed the add-on and you open it up from the add-ons menu, you get this panel on the right-hand side, which allows you to add certain questions to your Google Slides document that you're working on. Now, if you can see at the bottom, and I'm going to show you a little walkthrough video in a moment, but at the bottom there, you can see there's a little Pear Deck banner at the bottom of the slide that I'm showing currently. It says, draw the C major triad. And at the bottom, it says, students, draw anywhere on this slide. Now, that's there because I have asked Pear Deck to transform this slide into a drawing activity for me. And when the students view this on their own device, on their Chromebook or their laptop or their iPad or whatever they're using, they will actually get access to a drawing little tool panel, and they can actually draw on the screen to submit their response to you. Now, that's just one of the types of questions in Pear Deck. That's a drawing type of question. But you can also put a question on your slide which asks the students something and turn it into a text response slide where the students are going to type an answer into a box. Or it can be a multiple choice slide or something where they're going to respond with a number or they're going to drag something into place. Here's a close-up of that panel on the right-hand side, so you can see the options there. Now, I will also say that when you are in this Pear Deck panel, there's a little thing for the template library at the top there. Pear Deck actually has some slides which are set up. They're template slides which you can just use in your presentation, and they're fantastic. Pear Deck actually has beautiful graphic design aesthetics, and all of their slides look, I don't know who the artist is. I'd love to know because it's really beautiful artwork that comes with their templates. Beautiful sort of cartoon people and students and teachers and all sorts of things. Now, any of the template slides that you find in their library, you can adjust to. So what I do is look at them for layout purposes or structural purposes, and then just know that you can change whatever the question is or the thrust of the thing that they're asking there. Okay, I'm going to show you a quick walkthrough video. I really wanted to give you a sense of what this looks like from the student view and the teacher view at the same time. So I put this together kind of late last night, so I really hope that it's going to make sense. But essentially what you're going to see is me starting off with the teacher view first of all, and then you're going to see me show you what it looks like in the student view. I'm going to talk this through as it's playing. It doesn't have any sound with this video, so you'll just hear me talking over the top. So here's me as a teacher. I launch the session and there's a code that students will use to join the session. So once they've joined, you'll see their little names pop up. Now, as a teacher, you move the slides forward. You progress them if you're doing it in a synchronous version. So I'm clicking the slides moving on, and the student sees the slides move on through their device at the same time. So here's the student view. This question says, can you drag the dots into place on the keyboard to indicate the D major triad? So in the student view, and I'm doing this on my iPad, I'm just dragging those dots to show where the notes are. Now, back in the teacher view here, you can actually turn on show responses and see what the students have done. So you just saw it there very briefly, but that was 2 different students' responses there showing. This question is, what are the notes of the F major triad? It's a multiple choice one. So the student sees both the question and the place to answer on their device. And then the teacher can instantly bring up the responses to the question there and see who's responded in which way. Back to the teacher view. This is a draw the C major triad. Now, my video went funny. You're actually going to see me do the G major triad here. You'll get the idea though. So this is the student view now, and you can see the student can take a coloured pen and actually draw on the screen their response. And you'll see me able, in a moment, you'll see that I can bring that up as a teacher. Oh, actually, maybe I don't have that. This is the last question for the student. How many notes in a triad? And they're answering with that number. Now, Pear Deck allows you to bring up takeaways. Now, this is like a report of the answers that each student has given. It comes up in an individual Google Doc for every student. You can see the question on the left and their response on the right-hand side. And you as a teacher can add your own comments and feedback onto that Google Doc for them. Now, I know that went a little bit fast, but that just gives you a little bit of a sense of how that works. Super useful, very cool. And I'm going to get onto Nearpod now, which is similar but a little bit different. But Pear Deck is a great one to start with if you just want to dip your feet into this type of thing where you're adding interactivity to slides. Okay, so Nearpod is kind of similar, but I have to say it's more. I would say it's more powerful than Pear Deck, especially with what you get for the free version. So Nearpod is, again, an interactive lesson building tool. It's a little bit different to Pear Deck in that you can actually use the Nearpod platform itself to build your slides, to build all the parts, the components of your lesson. But if you want to, you can also use a Google Slides add-on. There is no PowerPoint add-on at this point, as far as I know, but you can upload any PowerPoint presentations that you already have into the Nearpod platform itself and create interactive activities to go with them there. So all is not lost if you're a PowerPoint user, but you can do that. Now, Nearpod has also a big library of pre-made lessons, and this is a little bit like their own personal Teachers Pay Teachers type marketplace where you can purchase lessons, access lessons in there. They are full lessons, like it's a whole lesson worth of teaching. There's some music ones in there. There's ones for rhythm, there's ones for notation and so on. There's a couple about sort of general music introduction, I think from memory, and a few other things there too. Now in Nearpod, you can create quizzes and polls and drawing activities. Also, you can have 3D images in there, web content and more. There's a few more options really than there are for the Pear Deck one. Now, with the free account for Nearpod, you get access to everything. The limitations are in the storage space for your lessons and the number of students that you can have per session. Now, the free version does allow you to have 40 students per session. That's going to be fine for a number of people, for most people. If you want more than that, you can just have, you might just have to stagger the classes accessing the lesson, if you know what I mean. Now, the storage space applies to how much storage space you have for your lessons. So the more multimedia that's included in the lessons that you build in Nearpod, the more storage space it will take up. And even if you've built your lesson in Google Slides, it ends up being saved into your Nearpod account and will count against your storage space, if you know what I mean. So I have found, so for free, you get 100 megabytes of storage space, and then it increases with the premium account. I found that with some activities, they actually took up no space at all. And these are very small, like single activities on their own. A more fully featured lesson in Nearpod, built in Nearpod, or that includes videos and so on, can be, a single lesson can be 30 megabytes in space. So you just need to sort of keep an eye on that. And I think this is something you would quickly upgrade to the premium version if you're finding it a very useful thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about how to use Nearpod. So again, you build your own lessons, or you can find pre-made ones in Nearpod. And any pre-made ones that you find, you can again adapt for your own purposes. You can edit them. So you can also take your existing slideshows and change those. And once you are ready to run the lesson with your students, you actually launch it from the Nearpod website. I'm going to show you what this looks like in a moment. So on the right on this screen, you can see existing lessons that you can use and access. But in this next picture, you're going to see what my dashboard looks like. So I've just created a few different things here. I wanted to test some different types of activities out. So I put together a few lessons just as a little experiment to see how it worked. And you can see my lessons are at the bottom there. And you can actually see the size of some of them, how much space they take up in my account there. I did actually hit my barrier of 100 megabytes as I was putting things together. So I just deleted a few things to make more room again. All right, so what I'm going to do is again show you another little walkthrough video. Now, just to explain this one, I've actually got the student view and the teacher view on the screen at the same time. So what you're going to see at the back, the main sort of the larger part of the screen is the teacher view. And in the foreground, bottom right-hand side is the student view. So that's me logged in on my iPad, and the teacher view is what the teacher sees while they're running the lesson. So this one is a really brief activity just to start with. It's a draw the pictures one, and this is just a single activity in a slides document. So I popped in an existing piece of notation, which is the stave and the existing 2 notes, and then the student gets to fill in the blanks, basically, fill in the rest of that. So you can see me drawing on the screen here. Now, the teacher view in the background there, can you see it says Katie and awaiting drawing? That's me waiting for my students to submit their answers to this activity. Once it gets submitted, you'll see in the background that my one that I've just done on my iPad pops up there. So if you have 20 kids in your session, you'll see 20 of those pop up on your screen. This is another activity, and I've set this up as a student paced one, and you can see the student can actually advance the slides themselves here. This is a game that is in Nearpod, which you can set up yourself. It's kind of like setting up flashcards. You set up one side with the answer and one with the question, and the student has to match them up. And that works so beautifully. It was super quick to set up. Really good activity there. I'm going to show you some other things in Nearpod, so a more fully featured lesson. This is one I put this together kind of quickly yesterday just to incorporate a few more of their types of activities. So this is a Star Wars. I set up a Chrome Music Lab Songmaker lesson earlier this year in time for May the 4th. So you can download this from my website. But the Nearpod version I just set up yesterday as an example. And what you're going to see in this one, same kind of thing. You'll see the student view and the teacher view together. The main part of the screen at first, there's a couple of slides that explain what we're doing. There's a thing about John Williams, and you're going to see a video about John Williams' play. Now, in Nearpod, you can actually access a video quiz tool, and it allows you to pop questions into a video at certain points through the video playing back. You'll see that, so you'll see the video start, and then you're going to see it jump to a point where a question pops up, and you'll see as the student, I will be answering that question on the iPad. So this is a super useful new tool in Nearpod actually, and we're going to talk a little bit later about Edpuzzle, which does that, but even on steroids. But Nearpod has a kind of a simple version of it. In this video, you'll also see a couple of other of the Nearpod types of activities that you can set. So I'll get this going. So here's my student view on the right, teacher view on the main part of the screen. Now, the video, you can choose to play it just on the teacher device or on the student devices as well. If you choose teacher device, it will tell the students to watch your screen as it's playing. So here's where it's coming up to a question. So this is a question about John Williams. Now the teacher pauses there, it pauses automatically, and the student has automatically a question that pops up, multi-choice, and as they answer, it shows immediately on the teacher's screen. So there was only one of me in here, but you can see it pop up there. Now, this is a collaborate board, another type of activity in Nearpod. So I've asked students to contribute the names of movies that he has composed soundtracks to and add a photo to this as well. So as a teacher, you can also add to this, and there's the 3 that we came up with there. Now, this one is, and again, we're heading into Songmaker here. You can have some instructions on the screen for the students, and then you can actually have a website that pops up that they go to, so the Chrome Music Lab in this case. And lastly, I had a little quiz. Unfortunately, the video failed on my iPad for a little bit, but here's what it looks like on the iPad screen. I got the last section of it. And as I answer the quiz questions, again, it pops up on the teacher reporting screen there. Again, I know that was quite quick, but useful just to see how that works. Now, I also want to mention that I was looking for some music teacher examples to sort of get an idea of how everyone else was using this. Couldn't find hardly any, except bless Aileen Miracle, of course. For those of you that know Aileen, she's got a great website called Mrs. Miracle's Music Room. And I messaged her yesterday to say that her thing might make a small appearance in this session. So hello if you're watching. And she had a great lesson set up, which she links to on her blog. So you can actually add this to your Nearpod account. But I wanted to show you this as a way of thinking about anything that you created in the first time that you were doing remote learning. So maybe you made a whole stack of videos teaching students a song that you're going to do, or rhythmic elements or notation elements, whatever it is. I thought this was a great example of that. So Aileen's got some screencast videos in her presentation. So the first one on the left there, let's review the song Bow Wow Wow. The kids can actually press play on the video and hear her singing and talking through how that song works, how the beats are the bones and the dogs and the two sounds versus the one sound on each beat of the bar and so on. And then again, there's another little video after that, which says that we learnt a new rhythm, watch the video to review it. And then after that, the next slide that they'll see is an opportunity for them to write the rhythm with their finger. So they're writing stick notation on the drawing slide there. So this was a great way just to see how you can reuse things that you've already created in the past and apply them in Nearpod and just get that extra interactivity. Now, this is what it looks like when you're building a lesson on the Nearpod website. You're basically adding slides. You can move the slides around. You can decide some of the slides are just to provide students with information. Some of them might have a video on. Some of them are activities, like you can see the word collaborate there. That's a collaborate board activity for the students. And there's a quiz at the bottom right there. You as a teacher can get access to reports as well. So there are session reports on everything. You can see a summary. You can delve into each question and see how different students went. So it gives you a lot of powerful information that way. Okay, so which one? I know this is probably what some of you are thinking. Which one should I use? Is one better than the other? The thing that I'll say is probably Pear Deck is a little bit more straightforward, maybe get your head around quicker. Nearpod, however, I think is more powerful, has many more options, but there's just that limited storage space with the free account. So look, to be honest, both would be fantastic for different reasons. And if you want to explore both, feel free to do that. However, I will say, and I'm going to reiterate this at the end, I think it's really good just to pick one thing and try it. Don't do a crash course like I did with 7 different things in the last week. Just pick one and get your head around it. Find some examples, connect with other teachers that are using it already and experiment. But I really think that these are both super useful tools to just increase that engagement. All right. Collaborative boards I want to move on to. I'm hoping everyone's going okay. I cannot see the chat window at all, so I'm going to assume that everyone's okay and just plow on for a minute. So collaborative boards, I did have a couple more things in this section, but I ended up chopping them out because I thought we'll be here all day otherwise. I have come down to just 2 things to show you today. So there are other options out there, but I wanted to show you Jamboard, which is a Google tool. I think maybe underrated or maybe not known by many people, and Padlet, which has been around for a long time and which I really love. Padlet's amazing. So I think both of these, again, can be useful. And I think, there's different ways that you can use both of these. So let me show you some examples that I've come up with. So Jamboard, first of all, totally free. You can, when you're in your Google account, like in Chrome, there's at the top right-hand side, there's what people call the waffle button, and it kind of gives you access to different Google apps. You can open up different things in there. Pretty sure it appears in there, but if you can't find it there, just go to Jamboard. and look for it. So Jamboard, the Google Jamboard is actually a physical thing as well as a digital tool. And the way I'm talking about it today is just as a purely digital tool, free online whiteboard. So the beauty of this is that it can be collaborative, and it means that multiple students can all be logged into the one interactive whiteboard, collaborative whiteboard, and contribute things to a discussion or to something that you're reviewing or something that you just want to discuss more with a group of people. So you can use this whiteboard space to draw on. You can add sticky notes like you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there. You can add images to the slides, and there's a laser pointer. And there are some limited options for changing the background. You can see I've got like graph paper squares on the right-hand side there. You don't have to have that. It can be a plain background if you want. You can have up to 20 people at once. And if you need to have more than that in a session, of course, you can just open up a second Jamboard. And the thing to know about Jamboard, which is super useful, is that you can create copies of the Jamboard. It's like a document. It's like any Google document. You can have copies that people can access. You can duplicate it. You can force a copy in your Jamboard, the Jamboard document, and you can copy slides and so on. So if you set it up once and you find you need to actually have more than 20 people, it's not hard at all just to create another version of it for another group of 20. I do want to mention straight up some kind of serious drawbacks about Jamboard. When I first started playing with it, I thought, you know what, there's too many drawbacks and I just don't know. And then I went on to set up all these things that you could do with it and experiment with a lot more. So I kind of like it, but there's just a couple of things I really, really, really wish that it could do. And I don't think they would be hard for them to add in. So if the developers are listening, it would be fantastic. One of the big things that you need to be aware of is that when you're in this collaborative situation, multiple students are logged into the same Jamboard, they can wreck each other's work. So you have to either know that the group of students you're working with is going to be okay and not wreck each other's work, or you need to have some very serious discussions about digital citizenship and set that up ahead of time. So, and there's multiple ways. This is a classroom management thing essentially, but it's just something you need to be aware of. I know some of you will see that and go, there's certain classes that I work with, it's not going to happen. So just forget it. Students can work on their own individual Jamboards. It doesn't have to be a collaborative thing. So that's how you might get around that. Everybody has their own individual one. Another drawback, which, and this is the one that, oh man, it's like the biggest one for me, you cannot lock an image in place. So the thing I got excited about with Jamboard is that you can bring an image onto the whiteboard and draw over the top of it. So this is awesome, of course, for music, because you can bring in a treble clef and stave lines, and then the students could draw over the top, put notes on the staff and all sorts of things, or draw rhythms. You cannot lock that background image in place. So it's super easy for it to get moved. So if you draw notes on the staff and they're perfectly the right size for the stave lines, it's very easy to accidentally resize it or bring it in front of the drawing that you've done, or move it around altogether and it is now no longer got the drawing in the right place. Anyway, I'm sure at some point they will add this facility in, but it's not there at the moment. Just something to be aware of. If you've got young students that you're working with, you may just not do that type of activity with Jamboard. There are also limited backgrounds. You can change the backgrounds. You can have a white background, you can have a dark blue background, a black background, you can have graph paper and lined paper. I wish there was staff lines in there. That would be cool. So that would be another way to get around to this issue of not locking images. And lastly, I didn't even know that Jamboard has these assistive drawing features, but they're only on the app version. So if you're on an iPad and you have the Jamboard app version, you can go in, and assistive drawing is if you draw a freehand circle on the screen, the assistive drawing feature will actually turn it into a proper circle. So if you've used the notebook software on a smartboard before, or Promethean Active Inspire software, you'll know this kind of thing. It's very cool. You can draw a square, which looks kind of dodgy, and then suddenly it magically becomes a beautiful square. So those features are there, but you can't do that on the web version. There's also a text option too. So you could draw your name and it will turn into proper printed text if you're using the app version. So here are all the things you can do with Jamboard. You can add sticky notes, and I just dumped all this stuff on a slide just to show you. You can add sticky notes. Sticky notes can be changed to different colors. You can also have sticky notes with a transparent background, which makes it look just like a text box. So that's how I did sort of text without being on a sticky note. It's just a transparent background. You can add images. The ones you see on the right-hand side, I either had in my Google Drive or I just searched for them and brought them into the Jamboard whiteboard slide there. There's a highlighter tool, there's a pen tool, a marker, and a brush tool. The brush tool is very faint, as you can see there on the screen. Now, I want to show you some examples of ideas I came up with for using Jamboard. And as a teacher, you can set these things up first of all and give your students access to all of this setup, or you can get them to do it themselves. So it depends how much time you've got and what age group you're working with. But here's one idea: song form. So you could play the students a song. I've got the sticky notes set up there with different sections labelled: intro, outro, chorus, verse, bridge, key change. And then as the students listen to the song, they're going to drag those sticky notes into the correct order for that particular song they're listening to. I've put more sticky notes up there than are possibly going to be used in the song, so that they don't go, oh, there's got to be 4 choruses. No, maybe not. So here's what the end result might look like. So with them all dragged into place, I've got them in order there on the slide. Another idea, similar one to what you saw in Nearpod that I showed. As a teacher, you could just set this up: film scores by John Williams, show me with an image, and then this is what the students might all contribute to this slide. So here's some of the thousands of film scores that John Williams has done. So when you search for an image in Jamboard, when you add an image, you get an option to search on Google, and it's a safe search. So it has limited things that pop up. Not everything will pop up there, but all of these I found in that safe search. Here's another idea. On the right-hand side, this is a worksheet that I put together called the 1564 Pop Song, and it was just a way for students to, sort of write down the different chords that are involved in different keys for that chord progression. So what I did was drag that worksheet into Jamboard as an image, and now the students can write on top of it. And I know a lot of you are needing to do this at the moment. So this is one way you can do it, and it works quite well. But again, just remember, it's super easy to move that background image out of place, or resize it, or get it in front of the text, and all sorts of things. I also dragged in the keyboard image just as a little helper tool. This idea here: listen to the song and add a word or emoji that describes how it makes you feel, and here's the results. The students can all contribute something like this. The emojis I added, there's a couple of ways you can add emojis to sticky notes in Jamboard, basically through a Chrome extension. Emoji Keyboard, I think, is the one that I used. As a Mac user, I also have a character viewer keyboard, and I can add them from there too. And I'm just going to go through these quickly here so I don't go through too much time here. But again, as a teacher, you can set this up ahead of time. I've drawn on the slide the dotted lines to divide the piece of paper into 4. It's very hard to draw a straight line. I found dotted lines are a bit more forgiving. So I just used the brush tool to do that. I added the transparent sticky notes for labels in each of those 4 quadrants. And then there's a couple of ways you could use this background. You could get the students to, you could either provide sticky notes with the names of instruments and they're going to drag them into place, or they create the sticky notes on the fly and put them into the right quadrants to divide those up into families. Again, with this provided to the students, you could just get them to do this sort of thing. where they have to create the name of a brass instrument and it has to be yellow on a yellow sticky note. The strings have to be pink and so on. So 2 different options for the same thing. So that's just a few ideas for Jamboard. Now, I haven't done it yet, but what I'll do is actually add a link to this Jamboard where all of these examples are, plus a few others which I haven't shown today. And it will be a force copy link. So when you visit the link, it'll say, do you want to make a copy of this Jamboard? And you'll say yes, and it will go into your Google account so that you can play with it and actually interact with it. Okay, Padlet. Let's talk about Padlet. Padlet is kind of similar and not really at the same time. Padlet is a fantastic collaborative bulletin board style tool. And again, it's not one where you write on a whiteboard, but it does all those other things. You can add sticky notes and they can involve video, images, maps, website links. And there's an awesome array of template layouts for you to use. I'm going to show you in a little bit a couple of examples. Padlet's been around for ages, and it's still going, and I still think it's a fantastic, very underrated tool. Now, for the free account, you can have access to 3 Padlet boards in your account. If you sign up as a teacher to get access for your students as well, individually, you get unlimited students accounts. But if you're using the free version, your 3 boards can be accessed by your students and they don't need their own Padlet accounts, if you know what I mean. So if you're using the free version, you would be looking at using it in a collaborative sense with your classes. If you sign up for the premium version, each of your students can have their own Padlet boards that they can use either collaboratively or individually. So a couple of options there. When you start off creating a Padlet board, bulletin board, there are multiple layouts that you can choose from and they offer different things. They're really, really cool. So I often use the green one, which is called Canvas. It allows you to freely move things around on the board, and that's more similar to the way the Jamboard works. Separately to that, if you look down at the bottom left, the one called Shelf is really useful because that allows you to have columns where students will add certain things in a column, and I'm going to show you an example of that. There's other options there as well, but I do want to draw your attention also to the timeline option, which is bottom right. When you choose that option, the little post-it notes, the sticky notes on the screen are going to be added to a timeline. So this is a fantastic way if you're talking about a certain style of music and how it's developed over history, or an artist and what they've done in their career perhaps. Students can create a timeline to represent that. So this is what they look like. These are kind of mini examples of each one of those layouts. And I'm going to show you a couple that I've created on the next 2 slides. So this next one here is, again, taking that idea of talking about the orchestra. I created columns with different things to do with the orchestra. So different families, strings, brass, woodwind, percussion. I've got a conductor column and an orchestra layout column. Now, the idea here is that students can all log into the Padlet board and each add something to one of these columns. So I added a few examples. So they can go in and, okay, I'm going to do violin to go in the strings column. When you add something to a Padlet board with a sticky note, you have an option of attaching something to it, a file, or you can add an image to it, or you can add a YouTube video to it, or you can add a website to it, or did I say image? I think I said image. I feel like there's a couple I'm missing. Oh, you can add a Google map, like an actually interactive Google map. So the idea here was, if you're going to add something like to do with violin to go in the strings column, the students can add anything they want. I mean, you could put parameters on it if you want to, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun? You'd search for violin and just see what comes up. So I added a video. Most of you will know the 2 Set Violin YouTube channel. The cello, I added cello, and then I thought, oh yeah, there's that great Star Wars, Cello Wars video. The double bass one, I just found that image that's at the bottom left there. I thought it was quite funny. Sorry, any people who play flute, I'm sorry, but I found that image. That's actually a GIF, so it moves like it's an interactive GIF there. There's a couple of videos there. I was looking up options for conductor, and one of the top things that came up, I don't know if she's on at the moment, but Debbie O'Shea, who's my friend in Queensland, one of the top videos that came up in the search results was Debbie's video about conducting patterns. So there you go, Debbie, your SEO must be working all right. And then there's an orchestral seating layout chart, but you could take this as far as you want. You could have lots of things and you can go on further down the screen. I just added a few things as examples for each of these. Now, another type of Padlet board, so this was the one that's columns, which is called shelf. Another type of Padlet board layout that I really love is this more free canvas style layout. And this is a portion of a board that I've set up. I'm going to show you another slide which has another section of it. But this one is an idea which is great for this time of year for those that are going back to school, where you have a musical me project and everybody contributes something to the board which is about their musical self. So you can do this as an individual project or as a group project if you like. I have a list of prompts where it says things like, tell us an instrument that you've always wanted to play, or who do you have a musical crush on, or what's some music that calms you down, or what's a sound that you like to listen to. All of those musical prompts, you could give the list to students, get them to choose which ones they're going to respond to, and they can add their own little post-it note to the board and include some kind of multimedia to illustrate it. So it could be a video, it could be just plain old text, it could be a Google map. You can see my favourite musical place, Salzburg, there. I've actually linked to the portion of Google Map that shows Salzburg, and you can move that around and zoom in and everything. Inspiring TED Talk, I've got a link to a video there. On the next slide, you'll see the sort of the right-hand portion of this same board, which shows some linked things, instruments that I play. I linked a group of post-it notes to that title, and it shows that I've played the piano, I've done singing, I'm playing ukulele, I did bassoon and oboe when I was at school. And so I wrote a little bit about each of those there. So I love this idea. It makes a great individual project, but it can work really well also as a collaborative project too. Okay. And this is the timeline view. Now, I did not set this one up. The Padlet people actually have this as an example. I was so happy to see a music example that I could just grab and show you. So this is a timeline of Grammy Songs of the Year from 2010 onwards. And each of those little post-it notes, if you click on it, it takes you to Spotify where you can listen to that song. So again, this could be a great way even for you to create sort of a listening list, a list of songs that students need to listen to in a particular topic. One last thing about Padlet I want to show you, which is quite funny. When you log in, it says, "Hi, Katie," and it has a funny little message which changes each time you log in. So this is the message top left that I saw last night because it was midnight, literally when I was finishing this off. So I logged in and I just burst out laughing. I was very tired and it made me laugh. So thank you to Padlet for keeping me amused. All right, I'm going to go on to some video quizzes now. I feel like this is a lot of information today. I kind of apologise for that, but not really. Sorry, not sorry. Lots of information. So if you need to rewatch this later, I completely understand. I do want to talk about two more things. So video quizzes. And for this one, I'm going to talk about Edpuzzle. The very final section is going to be on that digital badging, but that's the one, remember, that I'm going to do next month. So if I don't get through that in a lot of detail, you'll know that I'll cover it next month. Okay, so Edpuzzle is, again, it's been around for quite some time, and this is a way for you to add questions to a video. Now, the video that you add questions to can be anything that you find on YouTube or Vimeo, or it can be your own video. So if you made videos back in March and April when you started doing remote teaching, and you've got this fantastic collection of videos, teaching videos, you can use these in Edpuzzle as well. Now, what happens is when you find a video that you want to add questions to, you'll tell Edpuzzle where the questions are to appear during the video. And when the student logs into the session, they're going to play the video and the question will pop up at the right time and pause the video for them. They'll submit their answer and then go on to the next part of the video. So I'm sure that lots of you can already think of great ways this can work for music. So it's a good way to check for understanding. So it can be a straightforward comprehension thing. That works well, but I think there's better options for music like listening responses. Now, you can use and edit other teachers' quizzes. Thank goodness for this because yesterday, when I wanted some examples, I did not have to set up a whole heap of them from scratch. I just found lots of other people's ones. And Kath McGreal, who's an Australian music teacher, if you're watching, thank you for yours because I did access a number of your account ones. Now, you can set this up for students to sign in. Doesn't have to be a sign-in situation. It can be an open class option where no sign-in is required. But just know that if you do choose that option, again, there's less information for you as a teacher when it comes to looking at the reports from the session. The free account version allows you 20 videos that you've set up or saved to your account with questions, and you need to upgrade if you want more than the 20. So what type of questions? So when you are in Edpuzzle, you follow through the steps. It's really not hard to follow through how to set one of these up, but you find the video that you want to add questions to. You let the video play through until the point at which you want a question, and then you go add question here. And then you say, do you want it to be a multiple choice question or an open-ended question? And you'll pop the information in there. If you've ever set up a survey or a questionnaire or anything like this, a formative assessment tool, it works the same as all of those. So you can additionally, in addition to adding questions to the video, you can actually cut unwanted parts of the video. So all those videos that start off with, hey guys, what's up? Blah, 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 something about my YouTube channel, please subscribe. You can cut all of that bit out at the beginning and just cut to the chase with the bit that you actually want the students to see. Same thing with the end. You can even cut out a middle part, I think from memory, but it's fantastic to have the ability to do that. So if you have a really long video, but you only want to ask questions in the first section, you could cut out the whole end part if you wanted to, if you didn't need that to be part of the thing for your students. You can also add a voiceover to the video. At first, I thought this was going to be in addition to the audio in the video, which would be kind of useful as a music teacher, but it replaces the video audio, the existing audio. So just again, bear that in mind. If you choose that option, it will not then play the audio that's in the video itself. But this is really useful. If there's a teaching style video and you want to explain something in a different way, you can actually add your own voiceover to this other person's video that's on YouTube. So useful tool. Once you've set up your questions in a video, and I'm going to show you some more examples in a moment, but once you have set up your questions in a video, you can assign it to your class. So you basically add your classes to Edpuzzle. You then assign the video to your class inside Edpuzzle, and you can import things from Google Classroom. You don't have to manually add every single student. But then in addition to that, you can also just copy an assignment link. So if you're using Google Classroom, for instance, you can post an assignment there with a link to the Edpuzzle question thing, Edpuzzle thing, and then the students can get to it that way. You can also embed the video in a number of LMSs, so learning management systems, which means that the Edpuzzle video will show on the page in the learning management system that you're using. I haven't tested that last one out. Apparently it works, and it would be a fantastic kind of time-saving thing because students won't have to go to a separate platform altogether. It will just show it inside the LMS. Now, grading. Multiple choice questions obviously can be graded automatically by Edpuzzle because you tell Edpuzzle which is the correct answer and which is the incorrect answers, plural. So grading happens automatically, but if you use an open-ended question, of course, the teacher needs to manually read the answer and grade it for themselves. So here's what it looks like. When you are a student, you're looking at an Edpuzzle, setup here. You have the video on the screen, there's a play button at bottom left, and the timeline across the bottom of the screen shows you where questions are going to pop up. Those little teardrop things are where the questions are going to pop up. You also see on the right-hand side a list of the questions in the video, the timestamps, and it's set out like a to-do list. So as you complete each question, the to-do list gets shorter and shorter because those disappear from the list once you've completed them. So you can have an open-ended question. This was one of Kath's videos, so thank you, Kath. Basically, the video will play through, and the first question, I think from memory, that pops up in this one, Hans Zimmer, The Dark Knight soundtrack, is describe the tone colour layers that you hear. Students can type that in the box and then submit that answer. Another type of question is the multiple choice, or the other type of question is multiple choice. And again, this is Kath's example of a different one. It's the multiple choice question here, which is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, a piano version. The composing device used here to expand on the musical idea is, and then there are 3 different options. The students can tick whichever one they feel is correct. Another example of an open-ended question here, give 2 ways a sense of tension is built in the music. And someone else's video here, this is Kath's obviously working with older students here, but this one is a sort of basic reviewing note names on the staff. So it says which clef designates the notes that are below middle C, and there are some options there. This is what it looks like when you've submitted a question and you have it correct. It shows you that you are correct. You get feedback during the quiz. And this is what it looks like when you're editing or adding questions to a video. So the edit screen shows you, again, the teardrops at the bottom show where the questions are on the timeline. There are 3 different options up the top, a place to add questions. The middle option is to add the voiceover. So if you click there, it'll take you to some different editing options, and the option for cutting. So it's pretty easy to set this up. I have to say you don't need to go and look at a lot of tutorial videos, although they can be useful too. And I have linked to at least one in that Wakelet collection for you. All right, I'm going to move on to the last section here. I knew I'd go over an hour, but that's okay, I'm sure. So digital badging is something that I've been into for quite some time. And I actually went to a number of sessions at the EASTI conference, which is a fantastic technology in education conference, not music specific. But I had a number of people that I knew there. Was it only last year? It feels like an eternity ago, but I think it was only last year. And I made a point of going to some digital badging sessions because I was really interested in learning more about it. So if you are not aware, digital badges are just a way of motivating students. It's kind of like a digital version of stickers that you can award students for different things. It's a way for you to gamify learning in a certain way, and it doesn't have to be a competitive thing with students against each other. It can just be for individuals. I actually find that it works really well on an individual basis. As soon as I see a website, a service or product like, say, Flipgrid or Wakelet, they have employed digital badging. So if you want to see some examples, go to Flipgrid and take a look. They are all over it. As soon as you see them there, you're kind of like, I want to earn my Flipgrid Educator Level 1 badge, or whatever it is that they call it. I don't know what it is, but you suddenly just want to do the thing to get you that badge, and it's a great motivator. So it is this awarding digital stickers situation. Now, what can you use them for? What are you awarding? It can be anything you like. The 2 that you can see on the screen here are 2 that I set up for a free challenge I ran last year, where one of the days, actually only one of them is the video game one. One of the days teachers had to create some video game music, and when they did that successfully, they had to submit it to me and I awarded a badge. The other one I created for an escape room example, where as students complete the escape room, they get a little digital badge to say that they did that. So you can award anything. I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. It can be mastery of very specific skills. You might award positive behaviour, displaying school values, or whatever it is that you want to do. I like really small awards, things like I don't know. I can't, actually, I'll just wait till I show you some examples in a moment. Very small things, but it can be large things as well. It can be bigger goals, but micro credentials is the main aim here. So you're awarding tiny little achievements along the way in order to get to a larger goal. Now, what do you need for this? You need to work out what your levels are or your goals or the criteria, that students are going to actually complete in order to get the digital badge. You need to have the actual badges, and they are just pictures. It's an image file that you can create yourself. You can find some online, but you'll probably need to adapt them to say exactly what you want on the badge. And again, I'm going to show you examples in a moment. And then you just need a way to distribute the badges. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times, I'm going to go into lots more detail about this next month, but I'll just show you a couple of basic versions here. All right, so examples of badges, and these are the ones that I've created for different things. So for that free challenge that I had, I created a number of different ones there and a couple of escape room options down the bottom right-hand side there. Now, the rest of the examples I'm going to show you are from the fantastic people who took part in my Canva course. So thank you to anyone who happens to be watching, and I've picked your badges to show. There were so many great ones to choose from and show. One of the modules, so Canva, for those that don't know, is a graphic design tool. And I used Canva to make these badges that you can see here on the screen. Now, I recently ran a Canva course, which you can still access even today. And one of the modules is all about how to create your own digital badges. So here are some, I'm going to run through these quite quickly, but here are some examples. So Bonnie made a series of badges for recorder levels. So this can be for recorder karate or whatever system that you use. So you can see the badges are all identical. She just changed the color for the different levels. They look beautiful, don't they? So well done. Thank you, Bonnie. These are Jennifer Keating's. She had some different ones here. She's got texture level 1, melody level 1, mood level 1, rhythm level 1, genre and timbre. Again, different style of badges altogether and for different things. Maria, I'm pretty sure I saw Maria's name here today. So hi, Maria. Thank you for your badges. Maria had ones which are creativity, collaboration, citizenship, communication, and so on. And again, they look beautiful. Different style again, but they just look really attractive and colourful. Julie, hello, Julie, if you're here. Again, a different set. So you can see here, Julie's got some which are to do with singing or moving. And then there's one, caring heart. It can be something to do with positive values or, showing students, something lovely towards each other. And this is the last collection here are sort of random single badges from different people here. So Christina, I think Christina's on today. She had a few more than what's here on the screen, but here were 2 examples of hers for her choral students. So she's got perfect posture and a chorus superstar. Cherie had some theory ones. She had theory level 1 and 2, and that's the one with the one that's at the top row in the middle there. Jen Jenkins, who's a rock star in my online community. I love this one. This is the sort of thing I would totally do. Her badge here is for attaching an MP3 to Google Classroom correctly. Like that is the sort of thing you should reward when students do something like that correctly. Fantastic reason to give them a badge. Karma has done bucket drumming diva. Kaylin's got sight singing level 1. Mary had 2 chord songs on the ukulele. She also had one for 1 chord songs and 3 chord songs. And Jackie has had a hilarious collection of badges which involved dogs and all sorts of things. She cracked me up every day because she came up with so many different things as part of this Canva course. But I just had to include the dog rhythms level 1 paw in there too. Now, when you're working at the criteria for the badges, I just wanted to show, again, Kath, thank you for this one. This is Kath's example of what the criteria is for each of her badges. Now, you don't have to go into this much detail for your students, but I think it's really useful. You could have this accessible to them in your Google Classroom or Canvas Classroom or Schoology or Microsoft Teams, or physically in the classroom, and then they know what they're going to be awarded badges for. Now, just briefly, how do you distribute badges? There are multiple ways depending on what situation you're in. If you are physically in the room with students, you can print them and put them on a wall chart, like good old fashioned way. If you want to have a digital version, you can make a chart where students will place the badges that they have achieved, or you as a teacher can manage it and put the badges in place for them as they earn it. So it can be a whole class chart, or you can have charts for individual students. And then lastly, the thing I won't go into a lot of detail about today is you can actually use an official badging platform like Badger, which is what I did for the challenge last year. So come along next month if you want to learn a bit more about that. Just a couple of visual examples of these. So this is a simple table in Google Docs where students or you as a teacher can drag the badges into place. This is an example of a whole class one all together in one chart. Different people have earned different things. This example on the next page shows the badges are all already in there, but there's a way in Google Docs that you can actually change the colour of an image to grayscale. So you can put all the badges in there, make them grayscale, and then as the students achieve them, they get changed back to colour. And this example here is another example of a chart that you could create somewhere else like Canva, where you can got sort of fancy templates and that sort of thing. And this one could become a background in a Google slide document, and students drag their digital badges into place over the dots there. And there are multiple other ways that you can do that too. And this is what it looks like in Badger, the official sort of badging platform. This is what I set up for that challenge last year. You can see that there's earning criteria is listed at the bottom there, and I can award badges from that platform. And the reason for using a platform like this is it becomes like a public facing, if you want it to be, public facing option. So if you need to prove to other people what you've earned and what the criteria was, it's online and stored that way so they can see it. Phew, that was a lot. I know I raced through that a little bit, but let's just go on to what's next. Again, come next month, I do want to talk much more about badging because I think it's a great option for many people. So what's next? What should you do after today? My strong advice is to choose one thing if you want to. You don't have to choose anything, but choose one thing to look at and explore and learn more about. Go watch some YouTube tutorials, learn a bit more about it. There's a lot of information online just generally about how to use the tools. It's a great idea to start with the actual website belonging to that tool. To be honest, with Pear Deck, after about 3 days, I found their walkthrough videos. I don't know why I didn't find them earlier, but they were really good. Start with those. I've linked to them in the Wakelet collection there. Go through them and just have a go. Have a go at something. And if it works for you, keep it. And if it doesn't work, move on to something else or just not. Now, a number of you have asked about more help, and I have mentioned the community today. So I have this online community. My plan for all of the tools that I've shown today is to make a more detailed walkthrough video for each one of them. There may be a couple of videos for some of them. And I'm also going to share inside the community example files from each of them. So I'm going to link to examples which you can add to your own account if it's Nearpod or Pear Deck examples, for instance. I'll have examples in there that you can access. So if you're interested in joining, if you're wondering what it's all about, here's a link that you can visit. We've reduced the prices a lot at the moment. I'm going to keep them that way for some time because I just kind of want to make sure teachers can get access to help where they need it. But it's lots of fun. We have a community forum where lots of discussions happen. I'm in there every day answering questions, although yesterday I didn't get in there very much, so I'm going to do that after I get off this call. And we have discussions and we share things in there. Again, people come in and say, hey, what's this Nearpod thing? Have you used it before? And that can be a great place to discuss and get instant access to some information and examples. Okay, now PD certificate for today you can find at this link, midnightmusic.com.au/PD engage. I was trying to think of a short link for this one, PD engage. And I will pop that up on the screen again in a moment, and I'll just switch back to my camera view. And let me just do that now. And let me do this one here. There we go. And the last thing I was going to say also is that the webinar replay link will be sent out. If you signed up via the sign up form, you'll get an email with the webinar replay link in that. You'll get a copy of my slides as well, and we'll also put the link again for the PD certificate form there too, and other useful links. Phew. All right, I'm going to head over to question and answer time. I'm going to just look at the chat window again. Great. Thank you, everyone. All right, so I'm on the chat window now. I'll stop sharing that. You don't need to see that as well. Let's go back to me here. I hope I didn't talk too much. I feel like not too much. I did talk way too much, too quickly about everything. I feel like there was a lot to get through today, and oh yeah, it's just all of the tools today are so fantastic. They're such a great help, and really worth exploring. Don't try them all at once, honestly, like just pick one thing. It did my head in actually preparing for this, because I had used Padlet before, I've used Edpuzzle before, but I hadn't looked at them for a while. And then Jamboard, I hadn't really played with a lot. And then Nearpod and Pear Deck, not really at all. And I just had this immersion for a whole week. And on the weekend, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just way too much at once. So do it one at a time. Just pick one thing. Great. Karen here, going to have a go. That's the first comment I read. Awesome. I'm so happy. Laurie, thank you. Amy's mentioned a question that I might have an answer on. I'll find out what that is. Fiona's talking about Edpuzzle. I think I saw a comment, actually something I didn't mention. I think I just saw a comment fly past about in Edpuzzle, you can set it so that students cannot advance through the video. And actually something I found out which was super interesting about that. So you can lock, prevent skipping in the Edpuzzle quizzes. But also I found that with it unlocked, if you allow students to skip through the video, which you can do, I actually tested it because I wanted to just submit answers. So I skipped along to each of the questions one by one. But even though I had done that and answered all the questions and got them all correct, it did not allow me to submit my video because I hadn't watched the whole video. So I had to go watch it anyway. So I had it playing in the background. Well, because I did not need to see the video for a fourth time trying to submit the answers. It's crazy. I got to put something on the floor. Hang on. So there we go. So locking you can turn on or off for Edpuzzle, which is a really useful thing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, B. Lacey, which looks like Blacey. Thank you. I'm glad. Dominique. Great. So much info. Yes, it was. Homeschool calls, says Jenny. Good luck. Go do that. Yep. I am every day so thankful my kids are older and able to manage themselves every day. Like they are off in their rooms right now doing their own lessons, and it's just so good. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Lisa. Nearpod can be asynchronous, Lisa. Correct. Yes. So with Nearpod, what happens is if you're running it as a synchronous lesson, as in the teacher's controlling it, only the teacher can advance the slides. You can see the arrows to click on. When you turn it into an asynchronous option for the students, and you do this in the Nearpod dashboard, you'll launch it as a student-paced version instead of a live presentation. When it's a student-paced one, the students can actually advance the slides themselves, and they can't do that in the synchronous version. Hope that makes sense. Oh, Shari, I'm so glad you found me too. Thank you. Thank you, Faye. And yes, one thing at a time, correct, that comment that flew past. Thank you, Kelsey. Yeah. Kelsey just mentioned about lessons that can work in any situation. I think that's such a useful thing. I really think it's so super useful right now. I think the plan should be really to create teaching resources that you can instantly adapt for whichever situation you're in. It can change very fast. Those in Melbourne know this. It changes very quickly. Rachel, the CBTR course, that's the Canva course that I mentioned a little bit there. I'm just seeing that question about audio equipment. I'll come back to that. Yeah, okay. The CBTR course is Create Beautiful Teaching Resources Fast course. And that's basically the Canva course where I run through 5 modules creating different things. So module 3 was all about creating digital badges and certificates as well, which I didn't show any of. Brielle gives herself more homework anytime. Yeah, okay. Anne said, question about Jamboard, do you need students to log in with their own Gmail? And I've missed the rest of the question and it's gone out of my view again now. They can join without logging in or by logging in either. I think there's probably benefits to logging in if you want them to, because then it's easier to save things to their own Google account, if you know what I mean, and you see them identified. If they're not logged in, you know when people view a Google Doc that you've shared and it comes up with anonymous rabbit and things like that, that's what it's like in Jamboard, I think, from memory. To the person who asked about my setup at home, I have a really simple set. Today I'm using a really simple setup. I do have other options which are more fancy and stuff, but I keep going back to this because it just keeps working. So this microphone is a USB mic and it plugs straight into my Mac laptop. So that's that done. And you just need to make sure when you launch the system that you're using to run your session, whether it's Zoom or whatever, that you select that microphone as the audio input. So that's one thing. I have this boom arm, which honestly has been one of the best $100 I've ever spent, because it just means that the mic is here and I can shove it out of the way when I'm not using it, and it lives on my desk and it's attached by a screw thingy, technical term. And it just stays here the whole time. So as soon as I'm on, I pop the mic in and swing it into place and it's done. And it just saves holding it with your hand or having something on the desk in front of you, which gets in the way when you want to use your mouse. That's it. That's my total setup. I also have a ring light, which I just bought, but I couldn't plug it. I still need to find it. I can't find, that's that, which is going to help me not look so dark. But I couldn't find the USB port adapter thingy, hub, what do you call it? I ran out of USB ports on my Mac, and I have a little hub thing somewhere. Couldn't find it. So there you go. I hope that's a help. How did you get... Jordan says, how did you get to use Pear Deck as a student without the email sign-in? Oh, now let me see if I can actually remember that. You just give them the join. They go to join Pear Deck, joinpd.com, and there's a code that they enter. It's like Nearpod. I don't think I showed it on the Pear Deck screen, but they basically just enter a code and it just pops in there. You can, from memory, and this is where, because I was delving into Nearpod and Pear Deck at the same time, I got so confused with the two ways of doing things. A lot of the stuff happens the same way, and I have a lot of situations where I'm like, I can't remember if this is Pear Deck or Nearpod. I'm pretty sure with Pear Deck you can have them log in with their Google email and stuff like that, or they can just do it as an anonymous person. So the thing that I found, if you get them to log in without, if they join the session without logging into their Google account, you can't see a name attached to their submissions. Amy might correct me if I'm wrong about that. I didn't see a way to see who submitted what. It gives them like a nickname, like I think, or is that in Nearpod? Anyway, when you're looking at the results, they come through as anonymous rabbit or armadillo or something like that. So it's harder to kind of match up results with students that way. That was what I found. I could be wrong. Someone might correct me if that's not right. Melissa says, is there a specific digital badging site that you could suggest? Badger is the one that I use. So it's Badger with no E, BADGR. You don't have to use a badging site at all. There's just sort of extra benefits for doing it that way. You don't need to do that at all. You can keep it all simple and no badging service if you don't want to. Badger is free, and Badger has recently connected with Microsoft Teams, maybe purchased by Microsoft. I can't remember, but connected with Microsoft now. So there's a lot of good integration with Microsoft, but you don't have to be a Microsoft school to use it. So don't feel like that's a limitation. See you next month, Giovanna. Giovanna. Sue says, so Nearpod, you could use it as a synchronous lesson and change. Yes. Yes, Sue asked about, can you change in Nearpod, change the lesson from synchronous to an asynchronous option? You can launch a live session, and then another day you can launch a student-paced session. And with the student-paced one, you actually set a range of days for them to access it. So it can be for a whole month, or it could be a week or a couple of days. And as long as it's within that date range, the students can access that session. Now I think I'm remembering this correctly. With Nearpod student-paced sessions, the code will stay the same for that period of time. If you launch a live session, the next time you launch it, the code will change, if you know what I mean. Each live session has its own new join code, just to mention that. Fiona says, can you create time? I don't know what that means. I'd love to be able to create time. Oh yeah, Amy's confirming they can. Oh yeah, they can join from the website link. So if students can click on a link to join the Paired X session, it will just automatically join them in without them needing to enter the code. Yeah. Amy is so good. Just read a compliment for Amy there. Thanks, Doug. See you soon. Yep. Suze has to go to bed. I don't blame you. Thank you, Gisela. Early childhood. Yeah, to be honest, Gisela, that is totally Amy's wheelhouse. Early childhood, nursery, pre-K, kinder. You should check out her things on her website. And she has some past webinars that she's run, which I recorded on there. So things like Seesaw would be very useful for you to look at there. Not to say I won't do that in the future, but Amy is definitely an expert in that area. Great, thank you. I'm still scrolling through. Is it possible to add this to our Teams from Microsoft platform, or finished work can be added by links? Ada, with Teams, yeah, with Teams you would add a link. Well, actually, with Pear Deck, Pear Deck has a PowerPoint add-on now. So I'm guessing that you would set an assignment with the PowerPoint as oh gosh, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Anyway, yes, it's not hard to do the link thing. So you can get a link to your Pear Deck thing or Nearpod thing and just pop that into Teams as an assignment. Like, students, click here, complete this, or join this session. I hope that makes sense. Fiona's got to go on Zoom. Excellent. Irene, let me put a link up on the screen. Irene, there's links on this Canva, oh my gosh, Wakelet board. Kim, the links are on midnightmusic.com.au. Just make sure AU is there. The one that you've posted there says just .com. So it's midnightmusic.com.au/engage links, like you can see on the screen here. Anne's asked about using them in Zoom instrumental lessons. Yeah, I think that would work really well. I didn't give any specific examples today, but I think definitely it would work well. Yeah, either during the lesson synchronously or asynchronously. You could give them something to complete outside the 30-minute lesson time or whatever it is. Totally. Maria, thank you. Lindsay, is there a way to use slides or Seesaw to automate badges? Lindsay, what I did, not really. No, is the answer. Basically, what I did using Badger, you as a teacher kind of need to see their work in order to approve the badge, in theory anyway. So they would complete something and submit evidence to you. This is the way I did it for the challenge last year. I mean, obviously you can do it any way you like, but in theory, they would show some evidence of learning or proof of what they've done and submit something they've created to show you that, and you would need to approve it anyway. So there's no way to do it automatically as such. You still need to approve. So with the Badger platform, uh, what I did, which I'll show next month, I'll explain in more detail, is I set up a Google form which said name, email address, uh, what badge did you complete, and please paste a link to your evidence. And so the evidence that people provided was a file of some sort, which was stored somewhere where they could provide me with a link. So it could have been a website link to show me a creation that they'd done musically or whatever. So there's an evidence link. And this was necessary for the Badger platform because it's an official kind of platform. When someone views your badge that you have earned on Badger, it actually links to the thing you created to earn that badge. So this is why it's great to use these platforms. It has a thing. The automated part, kind of, not really, was that I could upload multiple names to Badger at once instead of having to award single badges each time. So the process is once students had submitted their evidence, I would wait till there was 20 or so and then upload that data to Badger, and then it automatically says, hey, you've earned your badge. So it's not really automated, but you can do batching. And I don't know if that makes any sense, what I said. I don't know if that really helps you. Again, I'll explain it in much more detail next month. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and it's great. Yeah, Karen's, yeah. Nearpod does let them choose a name for themselves. I actually prefer that aspect of Nearpod over Pear Deck because in Pear Deck, they can log in without giving any name at all. But in Nearpod, you have to give some kind of name. And yeah, you would hopefully specify that they use their own name. One tip I did read in the last few days in Nearpod, when the kids fill out their name, there's just a single field for name. Some teachers recommend getting them to put surname space first name, because then when you look at the reports come through in the back end, they come through in alphabetical order. So it's easier for you to sort the information. Yeah, Google Classroom, the question was, would I post a link to the lesson or a code for the Pear Deck? It's easier to post the link actually to the session because then the kids don't need to separately enter the code, but you could do either. And in fact, when you're in presentation mode with either, I think both Pear Deck and Nearpod, anyone that joins the session late, if it's a synchronous lesson, it shows the code in the corner of the screen persistently. So if someone joins in late, hang on, does that make sense? Yeah, if someone's seeing, like if you're on a Zoom call and they see your screen and they're like, oh, I should be in Pear Deck, they can go to Pear Deck and enter the code that's showing on your teacher screen. Yep, okay, Amy's answered that question probably much more better than I have. Richard, good night. Barbara, you can force a copy of Jamboard the same method I use for forcing a copy in Slides or Google Docs. You can just delete the last part of the Jamboard URL, which actually has viewer. So what you're going to do is delete the word viewer and anything after it and change it to copy. And then that is the link that you'll send to someone. Let me paste this. I don't know if the links are actually hyperlinks in the. Oh no, they are. Here's the Jamboard that I showed. I will actually put that onto the Wakelet thing. I forgot to do that earlier, but I will do that. Yeah, it's very cool. Really cool. Really cool. Thanks, Marta. Nicole, thank you. Great. Oh, Kim got the right link. Great, Kim. What if any are compatible with Zoom? Everything's compatible with Zoom, Beth, because the way I like to think about Zoom is pretend Zoom is just your data projector at school. So if you were in the classroom with kids, you would just plug your laptop in and show the screen on the data projector. and run the lesson that way. So with Zoom, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to hit share screen, and that is your data projector. So all of them will work with Zoom, all of them. You just need to kind of get your head around how you're going to run the session as a teacher. So you might start like me with your face showing on the screen, and then at some point you're going to switch to presenting from a Pear Deck slide deck or a Nearpod lesson, or showing a Jamboard, but all of them are just sharing your screen and running the session that way. It's Shelley in Iowa asks, is how do you do tea a real Australian rhyme? I do not know that rhyme, so I don't know if I'm the definitive I don't know if I'm the definitive answer on that, though. I do not know that rhyme at all. Someone else might be here still and can answer that question. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Felix, Ghislaine. If I missed the link, if I want the PD. Oh, yep, the PD certificate link. I'll pop that if you're still on, Ghislaine. This one here. This is the PD certificate link. Oh, yeah. Amy's explained also about, for Barbara, about how to share a copy in Google Classroom for each student. So yes, if you are using Google Classroom, there is an option when you're assigning anything, including a Jamboard, to choose from a drop-down menu. You can choose create a copy for each student. So if you're using it that way, that is the best option. If you are just sending it out to people who aren't part of a Google Classroom, then you can do the thing that I said where you change the end of the URL to copy, and it will do that. And you need to make sure with Jamboard, you need to make sure that your sharing settings are correctly set. So you need to just go in, like all Google things, just, the whole thing about remembering to change your sharing settings. Make sure it's anyone with the link can view, or it's the same as Google Docs and Google Slides and all of that. You need to make sure that's on first. Otherwise, you're going to get all these people saying the link doesn't work, permission to request denied, or whatever it says, access denied. Lindsay, is digital badging doable if you have 500 plus students? Yes, absolutely. The really time-consuming bit is you checking evidence of learning or evidence of them earning their badge. That would be all that I'd say. But that's the same as any assessment thing, really. So if you made really tiny literally micro credentials, like some people in that Canva course came up with badges for the correct bow hold for strings. So if you're on a Zoom call or in person and you can see 30 students in front of you holding the bow correctly, you're done. You've gone, okay, tick, they've all earned that badge today. That's a quick one. If you need them to create a composition in Chrome Chrome Music Lab Songmaker, and you're going to need to listen to 500 compositions, that's going to take longer. And Badger is free, yes. And then you can sort of assign them, you can award the badges through Badger by doing that bulk upload batching thing that I mentioned. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Irene. Riata, hopefully I said that correctly. Bedtime, good night. Felix Beck. Amy's last name for early childhood application. Oh, Amy. So it's Amy who's on the thing today. Amy will do it quicker than I will. Amy, if you're still on, you could pop a link to your website in the chat. That would be brilliant. So it's Amy M. Burns. If you Google that and put the word music afterwards, I find that narrows down the options. There's a few Amy Burnses in the world, as I've found as I've tried to look up her website in the past. Thanks, Diana. Does Pear Deck work with Seesaw? Asked Jennifer. Amy's probably answered this already by the time I scroll down. Pear Deck will, or any of them will work with anything, because with all of the tools that I've shown today, you can grab a link to the assignment, to the thing. So any LMS, you can post a link to a thing that students are going to go to. I think a lot of people get caught up with checking a new tool or on their website. Sometimes it says integrates with Canvas or integrates with Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. It doesn't mean that you can't use it with other things. It's just that there might be some easier ways to use it with that tool that they've mentioned. I think it can be misleading sometimes. So every tool that I've shown today, you just grab a link to that assignment and post that in your LMS, whether it's Seesaw, Canvas, Schoology, whatever. And sometimes there are other ways to also assign it, which might be a bit cleaner or a bit easier or make it easier for students to join the session. But at the very least, you can at least post a link. Yeah, so that I'm going to leave that as the answer to the integration with Blackboard LMS as well. Don't worry about looking for integrations. Just know that they will all work, really. Thank you, Tama. I hope I say that correctly. New Zealander in Hong Kong. Excellent. Goodbye and thank you. Amy. Oh, Amy Abbott. Sorry, Sarah. I just saw your comment. Amy Abbott. Yes, music a la Abbott on TPT. Sorry. Yes, if that was about that, Amy. Excellent. Thanks, Brielle. Online time with students. Great. Thanks, Margaret. JJ Screen. Thank you. Oh, good. Yeah. Amy reiterated what I said about placing a link in Seesaw. Amy Abbott is great. Guest 694, there'll be a link sent out if you registered for the session today and joined up. There will be a link sent to you in email. And if you didn't, I would give you that link, but I haven't set it up yet. Actually, I'll tell you what it is, but you can go. If you go there will be nothing there at the moment. It's going to be midnightmusic.com.au/replay engage, but don't go there now because there'll be nothing there. So like the link that you can see on the screen, actually, midnightmusic.com.au/replay engage will be the link for the replay. Amy, thank you so much. And please do go if you need to. Thank you. I will chat to you later. As always, Amy is fabulous and so great to have on. I will stay on for a little bit longer and answer any last questions. And I know I've missed some. I'm sorry. The chat window's been moving very quickly and I know I've missed some things. Thank you, Ken. Ken's just asked, might there be a Flipgrid music first or theory session in the future? I've already done Flipgrid actually in great detail, and I heard reports that lots of people liked that session. I'll pop the link in for that one. I haven't done the others, but look, to be honest, Music First had a fantastic free live conference last week, and there was so many resources from that. I will grab the link for that as well. So here's the Flipgrid one. The Music First one, all of the videos are on YouTube from the session that they ran. So they basically ran a virtual conference and there were sessions on the Music First LMS platform itself, plus each of the tools. There were so many great sessions there. Lots of them run by fabulous people that I know. I'll just see if I can look for that while I'm chatting to you. I can highly recommend. So you can easily access all of the videos from that free live conference. Here we go. I found it. Copy link address. There we go. So head to that and you'll get hours of PD if you want it there too. So many Amy Burnses in the world. It's so funny. You know when you Google someone that you know really well and then other results pop up which are totally not that person that you're thinking of? I Googled someone the other day. I can't remember who it was, and it was not you, Amy, so don't worry. But it came up with that person, and then it was like someone with the same name who was like a murderer. And it appeared in all these newspaper reports and news articles. And I was like, oh gosh, that's not the right person. Oh, Angel's asked about, how do we automatically generate the PD certificates? I have answered this question a lot recently. It's really funny because so many people are delivering professional development online in this way. So I have, described it. I have to just blow my nose briefly, and I'll tell you about that. So, um, in essence, what we're using is, let me see if I'll say this correctly. It's an add-on for Google Spreadsheets. So what you do, you need two pieces to this puzzle. One is you need a pretty looking certificate in Google Docs or Slides. Yes, either of those. Google Docs or Slides, you make your certificate. So whatever you want it to look like. Separately to that, you make a Google form which asks for the information that's going to go onto the certificate, plus anything else you want to ask. And you know that if you've ever made a Google form before, what you get from a Google form, once people fill it out, you can see a spreadsheet view where the data is stored of whatever people have put into their form. So, excuse me, this is where the spreadsheet comes into it. So so Google Spreadsheets, there is an add-on. Gosh, I'm getting all my terms mixed up. Plug-in, add-on, extension. An add-on called Autocrat. I will write that into the chat window. Autocrat. And what happens is that Autocrat is a mail merge service. So what Autocrat does is it picks out anything that you have said you want from the spreadsheet to appear in the Google Doc, the pretty certificate. You actually say where it's going to go. If you've ever done mail merge before, like old school mail merge, you know, you define places in the document where you want information to go, and then the information comes from some other source. So in this case, you define where you want first name to go, last name. Sometimes we have what is the name of the webinar that you attended, or sometimes we actually just put that into the form itself, like today's one. And that's about it. And everything else is set up already in the certificate itself. And when people submit the form, it automatically puts the information in the right places that we've chosen. So name, first name, last name, whatever else, the date that you completed it. And then it also automatically emails them a PDF copy. It does a lot of stuff all in one. So the original that I look at is a Google Slides document or a Google Doc, but what you get is a PDF version. So it does all of this automatically, and it works really, really well. Really, really well. Yeah, I'll tell you the issues that we have with it. Sometimes when people use their school email addresses, some of them get blocked. If people use their school email address to fill out the PD certificate form, when Autocrat sends the PDF to them in the email, some school filters block Autocrat's email. So that is the most common issue we have with it. People email, not me, thank goodness, Michelle, my lovely support person. We will get emails saying, I didn't get my PD certificate. And it's usually because it's been blocked. It's nearly always, 99% of the time, it has been blocked by the school filters. Or someone put a mistake in their email address. That's the only two reasons. Other than that, it works perfectly. So the workaround is sometimes Michelle will maybe do it manually for them. Most of the time it is actually there. It's just gone to their spam folder or their junk folder. Or we just say, try a different email address. So certain places around the world have higher level filters than others. So that's the workarounds. And that is the only issue we've had with it over. And I've been using it now for about, I don't know, 6 years, maybe 6 years of that. Yeah. So I need to send that. The person who invented it, I should PayPal them some money or something, I think, because it's like a free add-on. There's more to it, obviously, in the whole setup thing, but that's the general thing of how it works. Thank you, Gisela. Good night to you too. Yeah, Jen. Hi, Jen. Jen's on. Yay. Digital badge can be there. Great. Exactly. Yeah. Digital badging, it's really just, it can be just another way of it can be the assessment that you're doing with your students, or it can be an extra thing, or it can be lots of little steps on the way to a bigger assessment. There's many different ways you can use it. Yeah, Wendy, I still need to watch. I've looked at Wendy's just mentioned about Flipgrid upgrades and changes. Yeah, I noticed I did this whole not amazing. I did this whole thing about this is a cool way that you can use Flipgrid with a side by side video thing. And I did a whole tutorial on it in YouTube and everyone loved it. And now they have actually added that as a feature in the new version. Oh, gosh. Anyway, I haven't been through all of the changes. So, yes, so some things will be slightly different to my webinar, but the general concepts will be the same. So welcome late, but yes, you can go back and watch the repeat. Yes, I loved it. Jen, did you see, were you on when I showed your example? Hopefully you were. Yeah. Yes, guest 8212 who just commented about instrumental learning on a future webinar. Yeah, it's super hard. I came up with I ended up being able to fit very few examples in today. I was sort of like, most of my examples are for older students. And then I found like Aileen's one for younger and a couple of others for younger, which was good. But yes, for instrumental learning as well. I'm not sure if you've watched the webinar I did earlier this year, which was specifically for studio instrumental teachers about remote learning. It's more of a sort of an overview thing and a setup, how you can set up and do teaching through Zoom and some other things in there. So if that's of use, you can check that out. I'll post a link. I'll actually just post a link into all the previous free training sessions. And it's on that page if you're still on and you'd love to check that out. Great. Dominique's going to be coming next month. Yes, great. Debbie, good night in New York. Yeah, Jen's just saying that she had a tech ninja theme to solidify skills. And that's my plan for members of my community actually, is to have a tech basics thing that people can work through just to kind of check off what are the skills that they should learn. Great. Danch, good night. Michelle, Beth, Annie. Jen, yeah, you should all report back about doing it with many students. I think, yeah, Jen said I was just going to say, start out small with a smaller group first, and maybe stagger. If you're going to do digital badging and you've got 600 students, maybe stagger it throughout the year or the semester or whatever. So, certain classes can be working towards certain badges, but at different times so that you don't get 600 all at once achieving badges. I know that's hard to do. It depends what you're awarding them for, but yeah, start out small. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. You're lovely for your comment there. Thank you, guest 7558 as well. And Mia. Yeah, Lindsay, your comment about class badges, force copy a Google slide. Absolutely. I think that is the way I'm going to suggest next month as the simple basic option. Using Badger is like an extra added level and it is not necessary. It's good, but it's not necessary. That is the way I think is really good. They get a copy of their own chart. They can put their name on it and then they just drag their badges in. It's a simple way. Barbara says, how did you get the pop-up on the screen? Barbara, are you talking about the one here that you can see now on the screen where it says PD certificate? If it's that, it's because I'm using StreamYard to run this session and it's a feature of StreamYard. So StreamYard is a live, what do you call it? A live streaming tool, which allows me to do that. So it's kind of cool. I have things set up ahead of time. So like this, and I can just click buttons and change. It also allows me to change the layout of my screen really quickly, like this, and back to me. So it's kind of cool. Stephanie got her PD certificate. Yeah, look, most people do get it to their school email quite successfully. It's just like a small handful out of every 100, and literally we're doing thousands at the moment of those PD certificates because of all the webinars. Out of every 100, there might be like 4 that don't arrive in the person's email inbox, or they just go to spam or something like that. Yeah, Lindsay and Jen, I feel like you need to like collaborate on the on the badging thing. I when I get next month's webinar ready, I'll try and think of some workflow options, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Barbara, yeah, the PD certificate. Yes, correct. Yep, so StreamYard. Judy. Judy says I'm ahead of my time. Thank you. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. Students, guest 1777. Do students need the Pear Deck add-on to be able to view presentations? No, they don't. They just join the session. Only you as a teacher needs to have that on there. Thank goodness for that, right? Thank you, Kurt. Got to run. Good. Have a good evening or day, whatever time it is. Denise. Oh, thank you, Denise. That's lovely. Oh, you're in the Philippines. How lovely. I've been to the Philippines a couple of times, but not for a while. It's beautiful. I was in Cebu. Very nice. The weather was beautiful. Unlike Melbourne right now. Well, it's okay today. It's just cold and wintry. Yes, guest 8212, just getting back to your comment about instrumental teaching. Yeah, absolutely. The badging would be fabulous. Yeah. So I think I mentioned, the Boeing and stuff like that. Absolutely. Yeah. When I do the badging one, I'll make sure to include some examples for instrumental teachers, because also I'm guessing you may be in Australia. In the States, they don't have instrumental teachers quite like we do here. But the teachers there are working with ensembles all the time. So the leader of the band or the orchestra learns how to teach all of the instruments in that ensemble. So they are also needing the same kinds of examples. For the orchestra leader, awarding things like correct bow hold, posture. You could do so many really cool micro-credential earn badges for those students. It'd be really good. Even things like to do with intonation, you'd have to be quite specific about it, I think, but to do with intonation, it might be, I don't know. I can't think of it. You need a very succinct word to go on the badge or phrase or level, or you can just have level 1 intonation or level 1 bowing techniques, and then separately you might write the criteria. But yeah, you can have very, very precise skills that they learn, and it's kind of cool because you can then quickly gather up these badges and you feel like you're succeeding rather than you need to get to this whole thing of I've done grade 1, exam or something like that. You're kind of learning smaller steps along the way. I like it personally as well. Yeah. Lindsay thinks they may have had a conversation about badging. This is good. Hilarious. Oh, Judy, the split screen flip grid thing. Yes. Yeah, cool. They probably already had that feature totally set up and in mind and whatever. And then I probably did that video and they're like, yeah, we've already got that coming. Anyway. Oh, Jennifer, the next live Canva course. So with the Canva course, you can access it now and do all the modules and everything right now. Since it went up with the first group, it's still up and available and for people to access and join in and do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it like a group challenge or something along those lines in January. So it'll be January. And that'll be a chance for anyone who is already part of the course. You will get access to this group challenge, and it will just be a time where you can work through the modules again to create more things. So all of the modules, they're the type of modules where foreseeably you might do them multiple times in a year because you might need new worksheets, new posters, new digital badges, for instance. So I'll run it as a group challenge just so that we get that group momentum thing going. For anyone new to the course, they can do it for the first time with that group, or If you've already worked through the modules, it'll just be a chance for you to do it alongside some other people again. A bit like a fitness challenge, if you know what I mean. So January, in terms of when in January, that I don't know exactly. I haven't decided the dates, but it'll be probably the second week of January or so. Don't quote me on that. I will choose dates. Usually at that time of year, I'm kind of putting things in and around a couple of events that are on or trips that I might be doing, and probably they're not going to happen anyway this time, so I will be totally free. Anyway, great. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, if Jen, if you and Lindsay brainstorm on anything and feel like sharing with me, what you came up with or what you found out or what you thought about, that would be great. I'd love to hear about it or get involved. So, all right, I'm going to wind up. It's 12. I promised my kids I'd kind of get off around 12 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock here, lunchtime. So thank you so much for attending live, and I will look forward to seeing you next month if you want to come along to that one. So the date for next month's one, I will give you now, is going to be this. If you're in the States, it'll be Tuesday, the 15th of September evening. And if you're in Australia like me or New Zealand, it'll be the 16th of September. So same time. I don't think any of us have a time change by then. Same or similar time anyway. Thanks, Jen. Oh, yeah. Yeah, check out Neopod, man. I'm going to do some more in-depth things for the community just to walk through, and I'll give access inside the community to my Neopod sort of sample files that I set up just as a test. Stay alive by staying alive. That's a good saying, yes. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, I will sign off and look forward to seeing you next month.